National Security, Mr. Glenroy Blanchett, Commissioner of Police, Mr. James Sutton, Deputy Commissioner of Police, Mr. Cromwell Henry, Assistant Commissioners of Police, Mr. James Francis, Mr. Travis Rogers, and Mr. Andre Mitchell, Force Chaplain, Reverend Erickson Cumberbatch, members of the press corps, and members of the public and our diasporic communities joining us via ZIZ Radio, television, Facebook, and YouTube, good afternoon. Welcome to the Royal St.Christopher Nevis Police Force's first press conference for the year 2026. I am Lesleigh Joseph, Communications Officer in the Ministry of National Security and Public Relations Officer for the Royal St.Christopher Nevis Police Force and your moderator for today's proceedings. On behalf of the Royal St.Christopher Nevis Police Force, I wish everyone a happy new year and extend best wishes for a safe, orderly, and productive 2026. The start of a new year is a critical moment to reflect on outcomes and acknowledge challenges and set clear expectations for the path ahead. Today's press conference is held under the thematic focus, Crime Trends, Accountability, and Shared Responsibility, setting the national context for 2026. The purpose of this engagement is to provide a context on the national crime trends, address public concern following recent events, and outline the policing priorities for the year ahead, while reinforcing the shared responsibility society holds in crime prevention and public safety. Sustained progress requires cooperation, restraint, and accountability across the wider society. For clarity and orderly proceedings, the structure of today's press conference will be as follows. The invocation will be delivered by our force chaplain. The Commissioner of Police will then deliver his opening statement, after which the floor will be formally opened for questions from the media. We kindly ask that all questions and comments be held until then. At this time, I invite the force chaplain to offer the invocation.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Let us pray. O Lord, our God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, we do thank you for your faithfulness to us, especially the Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force, and how you have helped us in the past year to accomplish the accomplishments we have received and the success we have gained. We know, Lord, you have answered prayer. And because of your help, we continue to look to you as we face 2026. We thank you not only for the successes, but the challenges that we have faced. But through it all, you have given us a reason to continue to fight this good fight. As we come to this press conference, we're asking that you'll bless our Commissioner and the High Command as they continue to give information to inform our people of how to avert crime and to work together for a safer society. So now we ask that you'll take charge of this press conference, and together we give you thanks for all that shall be accomplished. For Christ's sake, amen.
Go ahead. Yeah. Good afternoon, listeners at home and abroad. Permit me to adopt the protocol that was so ably established. I am addressing the public at the start of this year, 2026, to provide context, clarity, and perspective on crime trends in St. Kitts and Nevis, and to speak frankly about both progress and concerns. Based on the Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force's comparative analysis of weeks 1 to 52 for the years 2024 to 2025, several outcomes are clear. In 2025, the Federation recorded a significant reduction in firearm-related homicides, declining from 25 in 2024 to to 4 in 2025, representing an 84% decrease. Non-fatal shootings was equal that of 2024. Robberies decreased by 29%. Sexual assaults decreased by 51%. Larcenies decreased by 7%. Crimes against tourists remained extremely low, with only 3 reported incidents in 2025. These figures reflect sustained enforcement efforts, intelligence-led operations, firearm interdictions, and increased cooperation from sections of the public. Fewer guns on our street mean fewer gun victims. That relationship is neither theoretical or accidental. However, the data also reveals areas of grave concern. Firearm homicide declined. Other bodily harm offenses increased by 11%, rising from 146 incidents in 2024 to 157 in 2025. Malicious damage increased by 20%. Firearm and ammunition possession offenses rose by 37%, indicating continued attempts to access or retain weapons despite enforcement pressure. Most troubling is what we observed during the close of the 2025 Sugar Mass 54 festivities. Despite law enforcement's diligent confiscation of various forms of weaponry during the festivities, and despite our overall operational successes, the season ended with the homicide of one 18-year-old young man, along with multiple other woundings resulting from altercations, many involving bladed or improvised weapons. This loss of life stained an otherwise safe period and served as a stark reminder that progress can be reversed by individual choices made in moments of anger or impulse. On behalf of the Royal St.Christopher Nevis Police Force, I extend heartfelt condolences to the young man's loved ones during this difficult time. What the data shows us is not simply crime trends. It shows behavioral trends. We are seeing an escalation in interpersonal aggression. Arguments are becoming physical more quickly. Disputes are being resolved with force rather than restraint. This reflects a decline in basic conflict resolution skills and an increase in willingness to harm one another. Social aggression is social regression. When violence becomes a default response, our entire society bears the cost. Crime statistics are not solely a measure of police performance. They are society's report card. They reflect how people choose to conduct themselves, what behaviors they tolerate, and what action they permit or excuse. Every weapon confiscated represents a decision someone made before leaving home. Every assault represents a moment where restraint failed. The police cannot replace sound judgment, self-control, or community accountability. In 2026, the Royal St.Christopher Nevis Police Force will continue to strengthen its mandate in 5 key areas. 1, community policing, with deeper engagement at the neighborhood level. 2, technology-driven crime detection and prevention using improved data and intelligence systems. 3, targeted enforcement against illegal firearms and repeated violent offenders. 4, proactive crime prevention rather than reactive response alone. 5, youth engagement, focus on early intervention and diversion. But enforcement alone cannot create peace. Preventing crime and violence requires the cooperation and the involvement of society in its entirety. Education, family structures, mental health support, youth development, and community responsibility all play critical roles. As we close the chapter of 2025, Sugar Mass 54, and turn our full attention to the year ahead, the Royal St.Christopher Nevis Police Force will continue to focus on doing its part to build a safer, more disciplined, and a more socially responsible federation. The new year presents an opportunity for renewed purpose, stronger community partnership, and continued progress in crime prevention, road safety, youth engagement, and public trust. The police will continue to fulfill our constitutional mandate. We will investigate, enforce, and protect every citizen. However, safety and security are not the responsibility of the police alone. There are shared obligations that will always require maturity, accountability, and cooperation from all. In 2026, we must decide as a society what we are prepared to change, what we are willing to correct, and how urgently we intend to do so. As we move forward, I encourage every citizen and resident to choose responsibility over recklessness, introspect over impulse, and unity over upheaval. The data already shows that improvement is possible. Sustaining it is a shared responsibility. On behalf of the Royal St.Christopher Nevis Police Force, I wish everyone a safe, peaceful, and prosperous New Year 2026. Together, we can continue to build a federation where progress is measured not only by celebration, but by how we care for one another every day. Thank you.
At this time, we'll open the floor to questions from the media.
German Abel SKN vibes. When we talk about major crimes, the murders and so forth, which is commendable, but when we look at the other major sector of crime, we see that to an extent they're up. What do you believe is driving this? I know, Commissioner, you talk about a behavioral trend. But year in, year out, the police force keeps repeating some of the measures that you want to institute in 2026. Much of them were in place as part of your policy for last year, and we keep doing the same thing over and over. How is the police force looking to tackle the issue of the behavioral trends, which seemingly is the underlying problem here in St. Kitts and Nevis, especially coming out of the carnival period? And my second question for now has to do specifically with drugs. That seemingly is one, I know you didn't mention much about that, but that seemingly is one of the issues, major issues that we saw in 2025. How are you guys looking to tackle this heading into 2026? especially when we saw the amount of drugs in 2025?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Abel, for the question. With regard to behavioral trend, that has to have a collective approach. A collective approach where we'd have to involve other ministries involved, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Social Services, the Elevate program, because the police, as I said, cannot do it alone. We have to have a number of engagement, educational drives with regard to addressing this system, because the behavior is something that would have to take place from the early ages as the person grows. So if we involve the education department, social services, and the police, I think we will be on the right path in dealing with it. For example, in the school, we have introduced the MAGIC program. We have introduced the TAPS program in the secondary school. And we are doing the community engagement. Okay? We also we have reached out to the Ministry of Education, where we will be introducing school security as part of their mandate to relieve the police of the entire burden. We are also in collaboration with the Social Service Department in addressing this issue. With regard to drugs, okay, the legislation has been put in place where where certain exemptions were made, but what has happened is that enough education has not been released to the public. When I say that, for example, the law provides for a person to have up to 56 grams. What we have realized as well, persons are coming into the country with that amount of drugs. You're crossing border. So that creates a problem. We also realize that with the law, with the legislation, persons are smoking in public. We have the ticket to be issued, but we felt that there needs to be some more education in that respect.
Just allow me to follow up on the drug aspect of it. That is noted, right? The lack of education, because we saw a lot. I don't know if it was enforced during Carnival. I know some notice came out from the police force that people would be ticketed. And let's be frank, you don't even have to be the biggest or smartest child to realize that a lot of people were deliberately smoking in public. Right. We are talking at the higher level, but we're not coming down to the street level of the ordinary man. Let me frame this correctly. We're not coming down to the level of the ordinary man on the street who are those people who are smoking marijuana, cigarettes, or so forth. Will the police begin in your community engagement educating the public about this? I think that, to an extent, is the question that should be asked. Are you guys going to be educating the public on this? Because you're talking on the radio, you're talking on the TV, and your message still isn't getting across, right? Will there be some major enforcement as well when it comes to this whole discussion about smoking in public? And following up on the drug issue as well, last year we saw a lot of psychedelic drugs on the street. You guys reported, you confiscated, you seized a number of those. I know I asked a question some time back whether or not St. Kitts is becoming a transshipment point for drugs, both cocaine and now we're seeing ecstasy and so forth. How concerned are you that this is on the streets and the fact that it's being found in St. Kitts and Nevis and there's no discussion that it's being produced here in St. Kitts and Nevis and it's now crossing the borders into St. Kitts and Nevis? Where's your investigation surrounding that?
Repeat the section. You're speaking in drugs, but a collection of drugs.
Yes, yeah. But then we're now seeing psychedelic drugs, ecstasy, and methamphetamine, and so forth. Mm-hmm. Are you guys concerned that it's not being produced here as would be reported by the police force, but somehow it's finding its way across the borders into St. Kitts and Nevis? How concerned are you?
We are very much concerned with regard to the psychedelic drugs being found in our streets because, as you have said, that We have not had the evidence to say it is being produced here, but we are concerned about whether a number of persons are using it and whether the country is being used as a transshipment point. So because of the revelation of this drug being found within our borders, it is of great concern to us, and we are looking at it. We are using our international partners to assist us in this regard as well. Smoking in public will be addressed at all levels. During our engagement, public address, public entertainment, public advertisement, we're going to use all the various platforms to educate persons. We thought, even though we sent out the notice, we realized the note it would have been short, and we wanted to have that engagement with the public as well with regard to smoking in public place and the issuance of tickets, even though we have been advocating it for quite some time. The enforcement will commence in 2026.
Since last year with billboards that we're supposed to erect shortly, and we're on the drive with education. We're supposed to have all on board, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, to further sensitize the public about public smoking. So I would want to say that the council is on board and has been doing it for some time now.
Okay, I have a number of questions that have been sent in by Jarvis Brown from Vaughan Radio. His first question, what is St.Christopher Nevis's detection rate for 2025? Second question, how many traffic accidents in total occurred in 2025? Third question, what is the police force doing to recruit more police officers? The fourth question, is there any update on Trevon Rogers of Potworks Nevis, who has been missing since May 2025? And the final question, in the force's view, how was Sugar Mass 54 in general?
The detection rate now stands at 43%. There are other matters that we are trying to wrap up from last year, but currently it stands at 43%. The matter in Nevis, Trevon, we are still investigating that matter. We have pursued a number of leads, but those leads have not led to the discovery of the young man. It's still an active investigation, and we continue to urge persons who may have information to talk to the police. Whatever information you may have and is given to the police certainly will be treated with strictest of confidence. But we are encouraging persons to come forward who may have heard something, who may have seen something, not to trivialize that information, but tell the police what you have heard, what you have seen. And all of that will factor into the whole investigation. But as it stands now, the young man remains missing, and the police are continuing their investigation. Accident.
Okay, we are still finalizing the numbers for the traffic accident, but the preliminary numbers that I have shows a decent reduction. So just to give you rough figures, in 2024, we recorded a total of 1,767 traffic accidents. And for 2025, we have 1,599, if If you do the maths, you will see the extent of the reduction. So we have in fact had a reduction generally in the total number of accidents. Similarly, for fatalities in road accidents, I think we've had seven fatal accidents. This is St.Christopher Nevis. I don't think we had any in Nevis, so the 7 would have been on St. Kitts in 2025 compared to 13 in 2024. So again, another significant reduction in the number of fatal traffic accidents. So in all, we are satisfied that we've had a reduction generally, both in terms of the fatalities and the number of accidents. We haven't completed the breakdown in terms of the slight, the serious, and the non-injury accidents. So those are still to be disaggregated. But in general, we have realized a reduction in the number of accidents in 2025 over 2024.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner, for that question for how was Sugar Mass 2025. I would say, from my opinion, as operations and person attached to the Carnival Committee, that we had a successful Sugar Mass 54. We had a large turnout to the major shows, fringe events, private events. We have a large return of nationals and visitors alike, and we had no major incident until the last lap sessions, and this was not, from our evidence, has taken place within the band. So we're still investigating that matter, and it's online, it's fresh, so I would not go into detail with that, but our carnival, like I said, was very successful. We want to thank the patrons for their behavior. We want to thank the security forces, both police, defense force, for their efforts, because without the effort of the law enforcement, the carnival would not have been what it turned out to be. So we want to collectively say, because of that cooperation, we were able to host St. Kitts Carnival, and successful in my opinion.
And his final question was, what is the police force doing to recruit more police officers?
We are presently conducting a number of marketing drives, and we are going into the schools to promote the benefits in serving in the police force. We will continue along this path because we believe that having nationals serving in the police force is the greatest contribution to national security.
Detection rate? Said something about detection rate?
And security.
And to add, we have just sworn in about 25 persons, and we have about 5 more to be sworn in as police officers. And training is expected to commence shortly.
First quarter.
From SK Newsline. You mentioned a couple of things, but one of the things that stood out is the detection rate, about 47%, is that correct?
43.
Or thereabout?
43.
Right, okay. How does that compare to, let's say, other CARICOM member countries in terms of resolving cases, both in terms of hot cases, so to speak, and the cold cases? And do you have the required amount of people, manpower, within the criminal investigation department to carry out so many backlog of cases that might be there, to bring them forward, to get them resolved, get them into the court system, and so forth? How is that working? I also want to ask about the traffic situation. What we are experiencing is an increasing number of vehicles on the road, both private type vehicles as well as commercial vehicles. We have also increases in the large trucking category. So as the country develops, as the country moves forward, we get more and more of these imports. How are we dealing with that? Because I don't think traffic lights alone will be the answer, and we need to find some other kinds of strategies to apply to the situation before we get what's called traffic gridlock that we see in some other countries and in some other islands. Those two questions for now.
Okay. Can you go on?
I can deal with it. Okay, I have not seen the information from our regional partners, but the international standard in terms of detection is 33%. So we are above that. And I figured in the next couple of months it might go to 4 or 5, it might go close to 50%. So we are still working. In terms of the requisite resources, you mentioned resources, right? We think that we have persons who are trained. We continue to train our officers. They have from time to time demonstrated the ability or the capacity to resolve complex cases. You have seen the results in recent times, the number of murders, the number of detected murders, the number of convictions. And I believe that we have the optimum number of persons that can resolve not only active cases, but cold cases. And these investigators are not only trained, but they have the confidence that is required to bring these matters to resolution.
Just to support what the ACP Mitchell has said, we also use our regional partners' technical skills in resolving these matters. We are limited in resources. No police force or any law enforcement agents have all of the resources. We also use the RSS, the Regional Security System, when as the needs arise. So it's a collective effort in that regard. And there are instances if we require human resource to depend on the occasion, we can reach out to our regional partners for human resource as well.
And in terms of the traffic question, yes, we are seeing significant growth in the vehicle population. I could report that last year alone, 2,254 new vehicles were registered. When I say new vehicles, I don't necessarily mean brand new vehicles, but additional vehicles coming on the road. We expect this week about 250 or 60 vehicles from the car vessel that is expected. So we're seeing an average about 150 to 200 new vehicles are being registered. Last year the total was 2,254. We currently have over 26,000 vehicles that are actually licensed and running, closer to 27,000 vehicles. That's about half of the population of persons. And so we see that trend moving upwards annually. Even licensed drivers, we have over 37,000 drivers on record. And that number increases every year by at least 500. I don't have the figure to hand, but it's an average about 500 new drivers actually are placed on the road. So we could see the challenge in managing and enforcing traffic laws. But we've managed to do a decent job of that last year. We intend to continue that trend using technology to assist in our enforcement. We now have most of our management systems digitized. Vehicle inspection, the driver's tests, both the written tests and the road tests are digitized. As I said, the vehicle inspection, insurance, all aspects of traffic management with respect to vehicles are digitized. We've introduced photo radar, where we are now taking the digitization or the use of technology beyond just administrative, but more in the operational realm. So we are now using technology to manage vehicle speed and speed law enforcement. We also intend, and we have started the process of using technology to manage violations at the lights, the traffic lights. We've seen a number of accidents at the junctions that are signalized, and most of the violations, most of the accidents at these junctions are caused by persons violating the lights, signals. And so we will be introducing technology to capture those persons who would cause accident or violate the traffic signals at junctions. So we intend to use a combination of technology and digitization to manage the increase in vehicular traffic on the road and drivers generally.
And just to add, as you know, with increased influx of vehicles, we have an increase in number of derelict vehicles, and that has become a challenge for us because the solid waste, we are working in conjunction with solid waste to get rid of some of these vehicles, because if you traverse many of our roads, you will see a number of derelict vehicles that could create a health hazard for the environment. So that is an area that we have to focus on. And just to add what Mr. Henry has said, we have tasked our vehicle inspectors to take photos of vehicles when they go to license. So any change to the photo, for example, tinting on the color of the vehicle, when we do our VCPs or vehicle checkpoint, we're able to access our database to verify the information when the vehicle was licensed to see what's in our database. So it's a collective effort we are dealing with.
Hi, Avery Lyrud from Freedom FM. So late last year, there were a number of reports about persons being drugged at events. Has the force made any headway in into the investigation of these incidents?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, if I may add, I could recall at least one formal report was made for an individual who reported that she went to an event downtown, and after consuming her drink, she felt funny and later caught herself in a car in an isolated area being molested by someone. That matter an investigation has since been opened by the Special Victims Unit, and that case is actively being investigated. So we are confident that we will be able to solve that successfully. We did also put out a statement, an advisory to the public, giving tips to persons how they could keep themselves safe whenever they go out in these social environments.
Okay, I have two more questions. Is there any legislation in place that outlines how late unaccompanied minors should be in public? And if so, is this being enforced?
Yes, there's legislation that restricts children under 16 being unaccompanied in public at nights. The extent of the enforcement it could be better, but you could understand the challenge because the law would require police to take these children to the police station and contact their parents. We find the station soon be filled with children, and we're having a hard time finding the parents. We have attempted that, and that has been the experience. And so we thought that we may have to work with other agencies. As the Commissioner said, one of our pillars is interagency cooperation. And so we do not want to take that as a police responsibility alone. We want to work in conjunction with other agencies to curb this particular problem. Otherwise, we will find ourselves overwhelmed with children at the station and can't find their parents.
All right, thank you. And my final question is, Philip Jones has been on the most wanted list for murder since October 2024. Are there any updates on his whereabouts?
We're still pursuing Philip Jones. We would have reached out to our regional partners in that regard, and we have not been able to receive any feedback as to his whereabouts, but we still will continue to pursue him and bring him to justice.
Good afternoon again. Just recently, so you talk about collaboration, and I think my colleague asked about the collaboration regionally. Just recently, there was the discovery of, I believe I might be wrong here, the name of it, tramadol by the U.S. authorities that was destined for St. Kitts and Nevis. Has there been any outreach from the Americans to the police here in St. Kitts and Nevis surrounding this shipment that was bust in the United States? On the topic of sexual crimes, can you guys give us some updates in terms of statistics for last year surrounding sexual crimes? Because apparently that's one of the areas that does not really get as much attention as it should. There's a particular case, a hush puppy case. We've not heard about that particular case. Last thing we knew that was under investigation. Can you just give us some update whether or not the police is still actively investigating this particular case? And finally, on the issue of firearms, just for clarification's sake, I know last year a number of them were confiscated, were seized by the police force. And what I mean clarification, some of these firearms that were taken, are they brand new firearms? Are they worn out firearms? Because in the context of the the crime situation, and I know again, firearm issue and interdiction was one of the major problems that was found last year. This will then give some level of context to the public whether or not these weapons are actually in St. Kitts and Nevis for quite some time, or whether or not they're actually being shipped through the ports of St. Kitts and Nevis. Because, again, it remains a big issue. And on that note as well, what sort of work is being done with the customs agencies, customs, to prevent these from coming in? Thanks.
Is that the sexual? I might give you an update in relation to the sexual offenses. When we're talking about sexual offenses, we're talking about indecent assault, rape, unlawful carnal knowledge, which we call statutory rape. Last year there were 36 such offenses, 36. The year before there were 74. So we see there's a significant decrease of 38 or 51% reduction in sexual offenses. And also the detection rate is 50%. So we would have completed half of the matters in terms of resolution and taken to the court. So we are finishing up the other 50%. So I think we're doing quite well in this area, given that a lot of the witnesses, sometimes we have to wait on them. They would have gone through this traumatic experience and would require to wait a while to get statements done and so forth. But it's a significant decline, and I am satisfied so far with the level of detection.
Okay, with regards to your question about the tramadol that were intercepted in the USA, bound for St. Kitts, were a legitimate purchase by a pharmacy, based upon my information. I don't know how familiar you are with the courier service. Even though we are closely located in the Caribbean, the shipment will travel to the United States before it comes to St. Kitts. And that is what transpired. A legitimate purchase by a pharmacist here in St. Kitts that had to go to the United States before it can enter the OOI.
So it was a case of not having proper documentation?
No, it's just a procedure. where the origin of the shipment came from that triggered the Americans to send out the alarm.
To firearms?
Yeah, you only firearms.
Yes, I can address a portion of it.
So that is the Chamorro. It came outside of the Caribbean, shipped to Barbados, and while being shipped to St. Kitts, they had to go through the United States to be shipped to the Federation.
Yes, to speak to your question regarding firearms, as of late November 2025, there were 20 firearms recovered, 1 revolver, 16 pistols, 2 rifles, and 1 component part. The year previously, 18 firearms were recovered, 3 revolvers, 1 shotgun, 11 pistols, and 3 rifles. If these firearms are new, the intelligence revealed that it's a combination where some appear to be new and some appear to be used and appear to be in state of preservation, like little rusty or things of that nature. So we are continuing looking into these matters. Specific to customs and police, we have a close relationship. The police have a close relationship with the other law enforcement agencies, Defense Force, Customs, and the like. And we do joint meetings, we do joint patrols, and we share information across the board in order to capture these illegal firearms coming into the Federation.
If I may, ACP Francis, yes. Just to alert, what we have done over a year ago now is have a joint operational meeting, deemed ISSO, Integrated Strategic Security Operations, and this includes police, Defense Force, Customs, prison, immigration, yes, where we have a weekly meeting of planning. What we have recognized before is that everybody was operating on a self. So we came together, we discussed operational issues, just like the firearms, and then we plan our operations on a weekly basis. And one of the pillars, of course, Commissioner mentioned, is intelligence-led operations. So out of that meeting, let me include Coast Guard as well, to take care of the maritime aspect. And out of that meeting, we plan our operations. And this is ongoing. It has been working. It is one of the many reasons why we're able to seize many firearms. We're able to seize many drugs at our ports. And you would have asked a question about if the firearms are coming through the ports. Criminals nowadays, they are very creative, they're artistic, they know how to pack. So we can't say directly if they are found in bottom of barrels, concealment methods in many forms. But we have a hunch that things are going that way, and they're also using our porous border, whether it be by fishing boats, etc., etc.
Just to add to this, Francis' statistics, he gave a number of 20 up to the end of November, but I would say it's same figure by the end of December. We haven't interdicted any new firearms in December. In addition to the 20 firearms, there was a total of 226 rounds of ammunition, assorted ammunition. But when we compare that to the cases, in 2024, we would have had 19 cases from the 18 firearms. And in 2025, we've able to have 26 cases from the 20 firearms. So in addition to the 20 firearms, we would have had 6 other cases that are firearm related, where no firearm was actually recovered. And we like to look at this particular statistics, both drugs and firearm, not as increasing crime, but law enforcement successes. Better interdiction, better use of intelligence to achieve the success that we eventually achieve. So while the numbers are higher, for us it is good, because it means that we are removing these weapons from the street. We are preventing them from being used in further serious crimes. And so we look at it as a law enforcement success as opposed to an increase in crime. So the firearms, there was a 37% increase in firearm possession cases in 2025 over 2024. And for us, that is a law enforcement success.
Just to add also is that some of these weapons come dismantled, and we would have had a number of joint training with the Customs Department to identify the various parts of the firearms. And in support of that, the Customs Department acquired a number of extra machines to assist in this process as well, to identify things that are hidden in different compartments. They have the handheld extra machine and along with the standalone extra machine. So those things have contributed significantly in our operation when it comes to finding firearm and other contrabands in the Federation.
A kind of follow-up to what we are discussing right now. Many countries, especially large countries, they use the K9 units. And we had one here some years ago, and unfortunately it got disbanded. Is there any thought going into, well, first of all, do you think that a K9 unit will be effective and contribute to crime fighting in the country? And if so, would you consider restructuring what was there before into a training program that can provide income to the police, or the government if you want to say that, by training dogs that can be used in other islands, in Antigua, St. Lucia, wherever in the Eastern Caribbean? In other words, you create a sort of institutionalized training business operation coming out of the police, providing resources into the local structure as well as regionally. What do you think about that?
Okay, the police do not have a K9 unit, but we have access to the K9 capability from the Customs Department. The Customs would have acquired 6 dogs to assist in the fight against illegal trafficking. I must commend the Nevis Island Administration. They have just purchased 3 dogs to be used on the island of Nevis. So we are covered when it comes to the capabilities of having K9 dogs at our disposal. Okay, so I know previously we would have had dogs attached to the police, but we have them presently. The government has thought it necessary to put all of the dogs at the Customs Excise Department. So that is where the dogs are at this time, but on Nevis, they are in the hands of the police. So we have access to that. And if there's a need, we can reach out depending on what the need is with regards to the dog. For example, recently we were introduced to dogs that can search for cell phones. So that is we have that capability of reaching to our regional partners for that capability as well. With regard to having dogs as to service the other regional country, that's something we have to look at and going forward. But it's not something immediately that we want to address immediately. Okay, that matter is not a priority as we speak, but it is an open case.
Can we get a quick update? I know we're talking about stats. White-collar crimes, it's something that often as well go unreported in the Federation. And while we're at it as well, can you just share some statistics regarding traffic tickets for the year 2025? I'm not sure if you guys have those stats at hand.
Yeah. In comparison to 3 last year?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, with regard to white-collar crime, we would have recorded, over 2024, we had 3. For 2025, we had 4. It is, as you know, our white-collar crime unit was awarded regionally for the conducting of white-collar crime from start to finish, and it is being used as a model investigative case across the region as we speak.
But that's specifically why I asked that question.
Yes.
Can you just drill down a little bit more into that?
Mm-hmm.
Because for the ordinary man listening in St. Kitts and Nevis, a lot of them would probably be asking what, quote unquote, is a white-collar crime, one. And two, I think emotions come in when we talk about white-collar crimes here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We think about just the man in the suit and tie, and quote unquote, again, people, hit politicians as just being the ones involved in white-collar crimes. Can you drill down into that, as well as the FATCA aspect of it? Because I think there's some confusion that the public does not understand the complexities of white-collar crime and what is meant by that. And I don't know if you guys did a lot of prosecution of those white-collar crimes to an extent, and if you guys were successful in that, as well as, I know you might not want to answer this aspect of it, but can you just give us a little insight in terms of whether or not there are cases of those financial crimes that you are actually investigating right now?
Okay, based on your question, the white-collar crime refers to the non-violent crimes, crimes that we call crimes of greed, pertaining to financial transactions, where persons tend to engage themselves in this non-violent crime, but very more economically inclined crimes, such as the money laundering. You can have a predicate offense that can lead into white-collar crime. For example, a fraud. You commit a fraud where you would have received some advantage or some financial benefit, and you use this benefit to your advantage through concealment and other means. So I can make it as simple as you can put it like that. Recently, we would have arrested a number of non-nationals, at least 4, who would have come to St. Kitts and began using some devices to get money from our financial institution. Because of our counterparts within the region, we were able to apprehend these persons, and presently they are awaiting trial. When I said devices, I mean fake cards, fake credit cards, and things of that nature.
Anyone laundering cases involved here?
It could be spill off into money laundering, because there's a financial benefit that they would have achieved in their illegal means.
And with respect to the traffic tickets, in 2024, we issued, and this is for St. Kitts and Nevis, we issued 6,800 traffic tickets, and 2025, we've issued 10,103 traffic tickets. So we see that the increase in the number of traffic violations is commensurate with the increase in the number of vehicles and the number of drivers that we have on the road.
Okay. Just before Mr. Bart, I have one more question from Jarvis Brown at Von Radio. When will the work at the Charlestown Police Station be completed?
The work of the Charlestown Police Station is somewhat nearing completion, but there are some administrative issues that needs to be addressed.
All right. One of the things that I haven't heard too much about this afternoon is the role of the forensic unit. I know when it was started, there were some limitations, and the idea was to build out the unit in terms of its equipment, its capabilities, its staffing. Let us know what is happening with that unit in terms of its capabilities and what has it contributed to the solving of various cases on the island.
The forensic unit is very active. We have quite a number of CSIs, both civilians and police, who are trained. The science, DNA, have been part of invariably all major cases. So the forensic lab, all of these exhibits would have gone through the process at the forensic lab. Whether the processing of items of clothing before they are sent off to our DNA lab, Cellmark in the UK. The processing of documents, we have that capabilities as well. We don't want to educate the would-be criminals too much, but we also do fingerprinting. We have the AFIS system there. We do ballistics as well. So there are quite a number of things that we do at the forensic lab which have led to the resolution of major cases. So it's very active, and we will continue to serve us well in the future.
And just to add to what Mr. Mitchell has said, we are in the process of adding more equipment to the forensic unit to increase our capabilities when it comes to solving crime and violence.
Good afternoon. In light of the tragic stabbing of 18-year-old Caden Hanley during the carnival season, what message would the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force would like to send out to young persons as regards to safety during the carnival season? Because for a bit of context, I'm 19 years old, meaning the victim was younger than me. Is it safe? Can my friends and I go out for Sugar Mass 55? Can we feel safe and comfortable during the carnival season? Do we have to be worried that there's a possibility of us getting stabbed, getting shot, or even getting our drink spiked?
Rogers?
Okay, from my standpoint and from the High Command standpoint, you are quite safe. You've recognized we have had almost a month of activities. One of our major headache is Juve morning, where we have alcohol and music, and you know what that combination brings. And we would tell you that it was as clean as it was because of the presence of law enforcement. And I must commend them at this point that they did an excellent job. The other challenge would have been last lap. The wounding that was there is isolated. It's not because you were jamming and you rushed on someone or that caused that. That was isolated. It didn't really affect the street activities because it was almost at the end of the activities. And from my standpoint, we're putting it at the square or somewhere around Bank Street, not in the center of where people and patrons are partying. So to answer your question, you're quite safe, young man, and our patrons, our visitors, our locals can rest assured that we, as law enforcers, will do as much as we can to ensure your safety. Thank you.
Add to what Mr. Rogers has said is that it's a shared responsibility, and I expect you, a young man, to join with us and find ways to settle your differences instead of using violence. You de-escalate instead of escalate situation. Acting upon impulse will not solve the answer. We have to use restraint. That's it.
And if we have no more questions from the media, I'd like to bring today's proceedings to a close. But before I do, I'll ask the head table for their final remarks.
Okay. As we bring this press conference to a close, I want to thank you for your attention, your questions, and your continued interest in the safety and security of our Federation. The crime trends we have shared today are not merely statistics. They represent real lives, real families, and real communities. They also reflect the daily work of the men and women of the Royal St.Christopher Nevis Police Force, who continue to serve with dedication, professionalism, and courage. As we set the context for 2026, let it be clear, our commitment remains firm. We will continue to prevent and detect crime through the robust enforcement of the law and through increased police visibility across our communities. A visible, proactive police presence is one of the most effective deterrents of crime, and this will remain our cornerstone of our operational strategy. At the same time, modern policing requires modern tools. We will expand and strengthen our use of technology in policing, on our roads, in intelligence gathering, and in enforcement. This includes the strategic use of CCTV, data-driven patrol deployment, enhanced traffic enforcement technologies, and improved intelligence systems that allow us to act faster, smarter, and more effectively. Technology will not replace good policing, but it will significantly enhance our ability to protect the public and hold offenders accountable. Accountability is also central to our approach. The police force is accountable to the law and to the people we serve, just as every citizen is accountable to the law. Public safety is not the responsibility of the police alone. It is a shared responsibility. We need communities to partner with us, to speak up and share information, and to work alongside us in preventing crime before it occurs. In 2026, we will continue to strengthen these partnerships with communities, with other state agencies, and with regional and international partners, because crime does not respect boundaries, and neither can our response. Let me assure the public that the Royal St.Christopher and Nevis Police Force remain resolute in our mission. We will act decisively against criminality. We will adapt to emerging threats, and we will continue to place the safety and well-being of our people at the center of everything we do. Thank you for your cooperation, your prayers, your trust, and your commitment to keeping St. Christopher Nevis safe. Together, through accountability, partnership, and responsible action, we can build a safer and more secure future for all. Thank you.
And thank you to the members of the media and the members of the public for joining us via ZIZ's broadcast platforms. Thank you everyone for your engagement this afternoon. And on behalf of the Royal St.Christopher Nevis Police Force, your time, your attention has been well received. I am Lesleigh Joseph, signing off. Have a good day.